Good morning. This is February the 19th, and it's time for a roundup. Call it an epilogue, call it a finale, call it a closing act, whatever. I've had the Fimi on the left and the Zino on the right for a little while now, and I've had them up for half a dozen flights or more. And I've made a list, and it's a pretty big list of the pros and cons. And what I found, this is just what I found. Other people have different experiences. This is just what I found and what's happened to me, and what I consider good, bad, and the ugly for both of them. So I'm just going to go through the list and then point out anything after that that I've forgotten. And we have the Zino, pros, cons, the Fimi, pros, cons. So let's start with the Zino. I'm only using Android. This is a smaller phone, but it's still an Android. With the Hubsan and the controller. So right off the bat, we know that with the controller and the Android phone, if you have any kind of case on it, you have to shave down the phone receptacle so it would fit in. Okay, and the pull-out, it accepts a fairly large phone, but it doesn't accept a tablet of any kind. So, with no further ado, let's get into it. The Hubsan, the pros. Okay, the camera cover here, gimbal cover, is the best I've ever seen. It makes the whole thing, in my mind, almost indestructible. I don't mind picking it up, throwing it around, doing whatever, throw it in a bag. I know nothing's going to happen to the camera. It's great. Best idea. Better gimbal cover than anything else that's on the market. Way to go, Hubsan, for the gimbal cover. The app that's on the Android phone, it's well planned out. It's got tons of features, and when it works very well. Very easy to get around, easy to understand, no problem. It's a great app. The range for visual line of sight, the range on this with the controller is pretty good. It's better than the 501 stock. It's better than my Bebop in some respects. It does have a line of sight better range, but the Bebop reacts better with interference than the Hubsans do, but it's got a decent range for what you want. Now, on the Hubsan, all you have to do is open one door, one arm, and you can get to your card. Card is right there. Push it. You can easily grab it, pull it out, put the other one back in. Not a problem. That's a great thing. The SD card saves 2 files. One's a large one, one's a small one, which is fantastic. Once you have finished your video, you put it on your PC. Like my PC does not handle 4K video. It doesn't handle 2.7K video that well. It'll do 1080p, but the small file is probably in 480, and it's great for preview. You can look through and see the timing and decide where you want to cut the bigger file. You don't even have to open the big file. It's great. Fantastic idea. I love it. You can also control the Hubsan with your phone. You can up, down, left, right. All the buttons work. That's great. The Hubsan can operate in almost any temperature. So if it's 3 degrees out Celsius and you're flying and you go up 40, 50, 70 meters, suddenly up there it's -10, it's still going to work fine. It'll, even if it's -4 or 0, you can bring it out of the house, put it down, start it up, fly away. It'll be great. No problem at all. Some other ones aren't so lucky. Like with the Bebop, it'll operate in cold weather, but it will give you really bad video in cold weather. The video is pretty consistent. Okay, did a really good job on the video. The camera's pretty good for the money. I paid the exact same price for both of these, but I understand now that the Fimi is about $120 US more than the Hubsan. And that's the pros. It's very compact. The Zino box, you just have to rearrange things. You can keep an extra battery in there, everything in there, put a bit of foam in. You don't need a bag or a box or whatever. It's great. I can carry everything in there. So that's a great design for the box as well. Okay, now for the cons. The Hubsan, and I'll open it up just so you see the sizes. Okay, the Hubsan has a very erratic flight pattern. It behaves badly under 5 meters in the sky. Close quarter flying, it's really erratic, very hard. And that's in part because of the controller. The sticks aren't tall enough, and it takes you half a push before it does anything. They're not very sensitive. So I can move this and nothing will happen until it gets to about there, then something happens. And it's like nothing. Oh, there you go. Okay. The controller, it feels like cheap plastic. It's not, but it feels that way. Okay. And all the buttons and all the labeling is the same color. So you've got to memorize it. You've got to memorize power button, home, takeoff, sport, normal. It doesn't work, but anyway. Okay. Good thing about this is it's an intelligent battery in the controller, and when it's on, it'll tell you how much power is left in the controller. That's a good thing. It's pretty cheap, but it functions well. It's got a little bit of weight to it, but it's very toyish. Okay, that's that. Disconnects. The only thing I found to improve the disconnects that some people have, and some other people on YouTube have mentioned this, is to put your phone into flight mode so it gets rid of the Wi-Fi. And it might help. I'm not saying it does 100%, but it might help. Okay? That's in flight mode. You can do it without flight mode. You may never have a disconnect. You may have a disconnect. You're going to get disconnect if you fly with the drone directly above you. Okay? So always keep the face of the antenna facing wherever you're flying. Okay? What else we got? I had mentioned that the camera is one of the best features of the Hubsan, and many people probably will buy it just because of the camera. But it still has minor soft focus issues. They are getting better, but ultimately a soft focus issue is going to be related to actual hardware. And I will guarantee in a warmer climate there won't be as many soft focus issues as there are in cold climates. Okay. The updates for the Hubsan are an issue, are a con. They're throwing out updates for firmware that's never been tested. They're loading untested firmware, selling them retail, and letting everybody that buys them be a beta tester. Should never happen. They should do tons of in-house studies, have it stripped down by many different people, unbiased opinions, and get it right, then ship it out. They don't do that. And that's a company issue. Okay. The controls, yeah, they're very sensitive controls, oversensitive in my opinion. The SD card. Do not use exFAT. They won't work. You have to format it in FAT32. Best size for this, I still say, is probably a 32 gig. U1, 10 speed or better, but a U1 is fine. U3 is great, but it does not like exFAT. It will reformat. If you have the Hubsan reformat the SD card through the app, it will reformat in FAT32. The update procedure. So there's no way of knowing when you have an update. It doesn't tell you there's an update available. You have to go online and find out by YouTube or whatever, or Facebook. That's another sore issue. If you can get onto the Facebook page and they don't censor your posts or rip them down or kick you off or whatever for saying you don't like their products. But if and when you do update, it's not simple. You have to have a PC, a computer, you have to plug it in, you have to download, you have to unzip and unzip and unzip to get to the file, to put on a disk, put on a SD card, to put in the drone, to turn the drone on without the controller, to make sure it updates the camera. And then one of them you have to plug it in, and one of them you have to do this, and one you turn the drone on, and one you don't turn the drone on. The update is just complicated and unnecessary. Next, the startup sequence. When you have your little dongle here, and it's plugged into your Android, you start the drone up first, then you start the controller, and you wait till all that powers up and binds itself. Okay? Then you start the app, you go into the mainframe, then you plug it in to the controller. That's the only way. I've never had a problem connecting the Hubsan. Drone, controller, app, plug in. I've tried all other ways and I get a blank screen. That's the only way I found consistently it will always boot up. Okay. This is Android. Okay. Customer service. I was going to say it doesn't exist. It does exist. I'm sure they're trying very hard with the hundreds, if not thousands, of emails they're getting because of concerns. In many instances, they'll do things without telling you. And in my instance, I had an original problem with the controller. The video button wouldn't work. I'd push, nothing would happen. No beeps, no clicks, nothing. I was assuming there was a loose wire or something. I don't know. I mentioned it. I sent them emails, I sent them videos, I sent them posts on their websites and everything. Never heard anything. Then on one of their tutorials, I'd mentioned that my controller didn't work, and a Hubsan person got back to me and said, send me a message with your order number, we will ship you out a new controller and let you know when it's coming. Well, I didn't hear anything after that. 3 weeks went by. I heard nothing. What's going on? 3 weeks later, box shows up, a brand new controller. So their customer service hit and miss, but they don't tend to be on top of things. Okay, they have a communications issue. Everything out of China has a communication issue. It's more of a translation understanding issue. They're trying to get the information across. It's just not coming across as you would like to understand it best. And it may take a few emails back and forth before you get to where you want to be. But in many cases, you get dropped between the cracks. Inadequate documentation. There is none. There's lots of things that could be documented. They're not documented. There's no troubleshooting guide. If something doesn't work, what do I do? There's no troubleshooting guide. There's tons of error messages that comes up on the app, but there's no documentation as to what they mean or how to fix them or should you be worried about it. And overall, the build quality, after looking at the Fimi and others, it's okay. Originally, I would have said it was just toyish, but it's, as somebody said on YouTube, it looks like a flying whale. Yeah, it does look like a flying whale. For the money, it's not bad. It's a little robust, a little blockish. There's no real design to it. But it's not bad. It flies and the video is great for the money. Okay. There's no factory reset. So I'll go and compare it to the Bebop. The Bebop, something happens to it. You push and hold the start button for 20 seconds. It resets everything as it came from the factory. Then you go through everything all over again. With the Zino and the Fimi, there's no reset button. You can't reset everything. You can go in the app and reset all your parameters that was in the app, but you're not resetting the Zino. You're resetting the app. Flight characteristics. Sometimes it has, as it's flying, it has a slight left yaw, and it'll still be going that way, but it'll be turned a bit. And that might be contributed to compass calibration or controller calibration, but I've done both, and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So I have noticed sometimes it has a slight left, and even when it's hovering, sometimes you're dead still and it's just ever so slightly turns left. Return to home. With the Hubsan, return to home, and the descent is erratic. It'll come down and wander and come down, and then when it does land, it's not very precise. It might come down and it'll come down and it'll come down and up, and it'll come down and it'll be like this, and then all of a sudden it'll be like this, or it'll be like this. And I've had one where it went like this and flipped right over. So it's erratic. You can hand launch them. You can hand catch them. Okay, but that brings up a whole other issue. I tried this on a hand launch and the thing went crazy. The compass was all out of whack. It took me 3 compass calibrations after that to get it back working properly. I didn't have a good experience with hand launch, but I'm sure others have. And if I did it correctly again, it would probably be not bad. But the return to home and the landing, it's very unprecise. The batteries. Big battery. I don't mind it at all. I don't like that it's there's nothing on the bottom, like there's no sensors or nothing, but it's a good battery. And the negative to that is it takes a long time to charge compared to other batteries. It's not an intelligent battery, not like this one, or at least it tells you how much is in there. And then also, when you do have your phone device in the cradle hooked up to this, its first priority is to charge your phone. Yes, it may be minuscule, but that's what it does. It charges your phone. Not the other way around. Okay? And what I did notice on my last flight, which has never happened before with the Hubsan, on the SD card, I keep all my flights on the same card. So they all come down January 2019. And yesterday I took it out and it went, because it was the 18th of February, and it comes down and it says 16th of February. I click it. It was a totally different video. I go down, I look at the very bottom, the 1st of January 2014, and that was this video that I'd taken yesterday. So the timestamp has a erratic behavior. Sometimes it can happen. It did happen. Okay? So that's about it. Wrapping it all up for the money you're paying. It's got a great gimbal. It's very well above. You can land it in grass. It's sturdy. It's robust. It sits on all four legs. It doesn't bounce around when it's on the ground. It'll start up in any weather. It flies. It's got a decent range. It's just not there yet. It's not reliable. I wouldn't take it out in any kind of wind. I wouldn't take it out if you were close to a lot of buildings or had to do any precision flying. It's still erratic that way. It doesn't hover very steadily, but as long as you know all that, flying, it's a lot of fun, and it does what it's supposed to do. For what it is, has great video, and with that second file being small, you can preview everything. I love it. It's great. Yeah, it's plasticky, it's toyish. These arms are going to wear out after a couple of hundred turns, maybe. I don't know. But overall, it's not bad for the money. Okay, it's got somewhere to go. I'm sure there's going to be lots more updates coming. But, as I say, it is what it is. And as long as you know what it is, I don't think you can go wrong. So now, on to the Fimi, which was purported to be the Zino killer. First off, looking at it, design-wise, hands and feet, looks way better than the Zino. Hands and feet. The box, on the other hand, you can't put everything in the box and carry it around without dismantling or taking these off and putting them in here. And when you do that and try and take them out, I flipped them out and lost them and had to search around and find them again. So anyway, the box doesn't have any room to fit this completely assembled. Okay, it takes a few seconds, but it's annoying. Okay, let's get on with this. We have a big list here, so we're going to get into this. Build quality. These are the pros. The build quality is excellent. The plastic feels way better. It's got the Darth Vader Star Wars look, you know, the Stormtrooper look. It's great. Yes, you have to put your name and phone number on these, but it's got sensors, and it's heavy, robust. It feels good. The plastic isn't cheap. Really good. Okay. The flight sensitivity is precise. When you've got the controller and you're flying this, these controllers, these sticks, as soon as you move them, it moves. It goes left, turns left. It goes up. As soon as you move them, you can feel that tension. It's very precise. It's a very precise controller. I like that. The app is well designed. It's in the Android app. It's very well designed. It's got tons of features. I dare say more features and more options than the Hubsan. The range, the out-of-the-box range is pretty good. Even in built-up areas, it's pretty good. You're going to get your 500 or 600 meters, which is your line of sight. So it's not bad. It's not consistent, but it's not bad. It's got a pretty good range. The size is compact. It folds up nicely. You can pick it up, and it does fold small. I believe it's a little bit bigger than the Zino, but a little bit lower. Okay, but nice design, compact size. Plug and play startup sequence. I love it. I use this right angle thing, but you can plug your phone in, plug it into the controller, turn on the Fimi, turn on the controller, wait. It all starts up. It's all there. You don't have to touch anything. It just works. I love that. Okay. The propellers. So easy. So easy to take off. Okay. So easy to put back on. Love that idea. Okay. The updates. There's one firmware update so far on this. It's just coming out now. I have not installed it on it yet. But it's brand new. The Chinese New Year's just ended. I'm sure there's going to be more. But the update process for the Fimi is seamless. Nobody can mess it up. All you have to do and all you have to know is how to press on the screen. It says update available. Okay. That's all you do. It does everything itself. I love it. The Hubsan, you got to jump through hoops and wires, and it's not very easy at all. It's easy once you know how to do it, but why do I want to do it when everybody else is push this button and we'll do all the work for you? And that's what the Fimi excels at. It's great. Return to home. The return to home on the Fimi, it says it's got a precision return to home within a couple of meters, yes. Sometimes 1 meter, sometimes 2 feet, sometimes 1.5 meters. But it does return to home. And when it comes down, and I'll open this up. Oops. And when this comes down, it's a big one. Okay. When the Fimi comes down to land, it'll be coming down, and it will just come down ever so slowly, and it will land, and it will turn off the motors, and then one of my favorite parts, it turns off your video. So if you've got a video running, it shuts it off. The Hubsan, you have to start the video and you have to end the video, like most of the other quads. The Bebop, on the other hand, is the reverse. It automatically starts it when you take off and automatically stops it when you land. The Fimi, you start the video, when you land, it stops by itself. So that's, I love that. And the descent is very smooth, okay? It uses FAT32 SD cards and exFAT cards. It reformats an exFAT, okay? So where your SD card goes in here, if you format through the Fimi app, it will format an exFAT if your card supports it. That's a great thing, because it means you can get bigger file sizes without having chopped up files for the same video. Intelligent battery. One press tells you how much is in the battery. Love it. It's great. Same with the controller. Tells you how much is left. Wonderful idea. Fast charging times. They don't take forever. 45 minutes at the most. I think one was an hour. Okay. This one takes a little bit longer, but nothing compared to the Hubsan. Okay. In the app for the Fimi, if you go to the battery mode, it'll show you exactly what's in each cell, how much voltage is left in each cell. That's a wonderful thing. And again, there's an abundance of options on the app. So yes, it flies precise. It flies, you can feel it flying. It's got a great feel when you're flying. No worries about it's going to do that jerky. When it's automatic takeoff, it raises up 4 meters nice and slow. It doesn't go up and then wander and try and find sensor, because it's got the sensors on the bottom. The Hubsan doesn't. So it's susceptible until it gets its GPS lock, because there's no sensor to say that's the ground. Okay. Now for the cons. Notice I haven't said anything about the camera. Same price. Right as soon as I opened the box, this was my problem. All my Androids come with a connector, but it goes in that way. Okay? So if I plug it in that way onto the controller, I have to go like that to fit into the controller. See? That's not going to last long. It's actually got to go like that to fit in the slot. Okay? So, don't use it. I use this one. Okay? I also use this on the Bebop, where it's the correct way. And if you're buying one on eBay or AliExpress or anywhere else, it's a right angle, left hand connector. Not a right hand, but it's a right angle, left hand. 15 centimeter plug, and it works flawlessly. Okay. Reformats, intelligent battery, fast charging, apps. Okay, that's now for the cons. Yeah, okay, the cons. Sorry, got ahead of myself here. The incorrect micro USB cable. That's that one. Okay. The antennas, compared to the Zino, they feel really cheap and not well secured. They just feel bad. The manual, it comes with 2 little small manuals. One is nothing, the other is the actual quick start guide. But you have to download the manual from the internet, and I always like a physical piece of paper to read things, because if you're flying, you don't know something, you gotta look quickly, and okay, you're gonna bring it back and stop and look in your app and try and find the PDF file and look through that. You're looking at your phone on a 5-inch screen and you can't see anything. No, I'd like a piece of paper that I can read. It's not the smallest. Like the Hubsan is tiny, and it doesn't say anything. This one, it's an okay size, but it misses so much. And in parts of it, the translations, because I don't know who does the translations, but it's got the Fimi as breathing, and other areas and stuff. It says, be sure the Fimi is breathing. I'm assuming it means turned on. So it's just little things that make it difficult to understand what they're trying to get across. And it translates through the whole manual that things are implied, and yet they're not. So it is confusing. Okay? Again, there's no troubleshooting guide. It'd be nice if this happens and this happens, what do you recommend I do? There's none of that. There are a plethora of error messages or warning messages that come up on the screen. Preheating, no GPS, ATTI mode, VPU, don't fly, preheating, system preparing, initializing, interference, all kinds of things, and there's no explanation for them. What do they do? Should be worried about it. Am I going to crash? Is it a danger to fly? Am I going to wreck the battery? Is it going to explode? There's no explanation. Okay. On the SD card, when you take a flight, it creates a file. And underneath is a reference file, an RLV file, whatever that file is. I don't even know what it does, but there's one file per video. So if you've got a computer that doesn't really like 4K, you can't play back your video. You've got to put it into a previewer, downgrade the preview to watch it. You won't know what the true video is like unless you've got a 4K video player. Okay? And you can't preview anything. So yes, it's better to take a 2.5K video and a 4K video. You get more definition maybe, but it's very hard to edit that. So you go back to the 1080 at 60 or 1080 at 30. Okay. The SD card slot, one of my favorite, I hate things. I hate this rubber thing. Some people say, oh, it keeps the dust out, it keeps the dirt out. Yeah, but it's a pain in the butt. Why don't you have a flip down, get out of the way thing? This is like, okay, you gotta put it up there out of the way. Try and get that sucker out of there, okay? Try and get your fingers in there to get it. I can't. I can physically not get in there to get that out, okay? I have to get tweezers to go in and pull it out. I can push it in, I can't get it out. So that's one of the issues with that cover. Okay, the SD slide is just too small. It's too indented. Okay, if it was more flush and it had a door on it, it would be easier to get in. It pulls the card out the same distance as the Zino. Like the spring brings the card out the same distance, but because of the door being there, you can't get there. The Fimi has buttons and functions that have no documentation anywhere. I think it was Dustin Dunhill that said there's a touchscreen white balance that's not even documented. So if you're flying over somewhere and there's a white patch or whatever and you touch the screen to the white patch, it adjusts the white balance. That's not mentioned anywhere. But further to that, in this infamous little cave of whatever, there's a little gray button on top and a switch on the bottom. And I've made a video about this. My switch wiggles back and forth like a loose tooth. Doesn't do anything. The top button is a pairing button that if you get a brand new machine or a different controller, when you start it up, you push that and it pairs to that device. But the bottom one, it's labeled Wi-Fi and RC, but it doesn't do anything. And it's that it does anything. That's because it doesn't do anything. I finally got an answer from somebody who's purportedly part of Fimi that says that's for future development, which I'm assuming this is for future development, but it's not labeled anywhere. Documentation is very lacking. The propellers. I did mention they were super easy to take off and put on, but they're super easy to knock off. I had one where I was doing a compass calibration and it was not calibrating and I bumped a propeller and it fell off. Yes, I probably didn't put it on right, but nonetheless, it came off. So I can see them through handling and that coming off. So that's not a biggie, but it's just something I noticed. Again, no factory reset. You can't reset this to the way it came from the factory. You can reset the app and all the parameters you set in the app, but there's nothing to reset that. And you have no control over the firmware either. You can't control which firmware to use. You can either accept or not accept. Workaround on that, you can email Fimi, give them your Fimi ID, and they will send your drone through that ID and the internet a reverted firmware. If you're so unhappy with a firmware, they will do that. You can't do it by yourself. They do that. Just like your satellite TV, they'll identify which bird it is and they'll send out the firmware update just to that ID number. It's kind of neat, but you can't do it. The rubber doors. Yes, the controller has a rubber door. Okay, to get into that, you got to get it out open. Then you got to flip it open. You got to hold it, and then you got to plug it in. It's, I'm sure, not too far, not too long. That's going to snap off. And again, the same thing with the rubber door on here. I just don't like the rubber door. They just get in the way. Don't like that. The Fimi, the propellers, they make, we'll call it the Fimi whistle. Like a train whistle. Really high pitch. But once it's 10 meters away, 15 meters away, you don't hear it. But it's a really high pitch whistle. It's annoying sometimes. The big one. Why you buy this? Video quality. I've come to the conclusion it's all got to do with the temperature. If it's 15 degrees Celsius or 12 degrees Celsius or higher, it's going to be much better. It does not like cold weather for video. Some of my videos, and the last one you see, I took the Fimi out of the house, onto the driveway, started it up. The video was rock solid, bang on in focus. Took it up. It was -2, -3 outside. Took it up. Out it went. A couple of minutes down the road, turned back into the wind. On the way back, that's when the jello started. That's when the shakes started. That's when the soft focus started. And there's the blue hue. So the latest firmware is supposed to address the blue hue, but nothing else, which I'll get into a little later here. The controller. The controller battery, in the book it says it lasts 4.5 hours. And Fimi got back to me and said, yes, that's 4.5 hours if you don't have anything hooked up to it, like a phone. Well, who is going to operate this bird without a phone? Nobody. It lasts an hour. Maybe an hour and a quarter of use with the phone. That's it. And again, as soon as you plug your phone in, the controller battery charges your phone. Not much, but it does. Okay? When you're flying on the Fimi and you're taking a video, in video mode, you can't take a picture. What you have to do is click the picture and then click the picture again. It takes a picture, and then go back into video mode, and there'll be a gap in your video. Okay, so the easiest way I found is to stop the video, take your pictures, start your video again. The camera is too close to the ground. Well, my finger can fit under the Zino, and I can't. Okay, and I've got another video showing this. When this is folded up, that camera is almost touching the ground, and there's no protection for it. There's no gimbal cover. It's horrible. And when it's unfolded like this, all the weight of the drone is on this hinge right here, because the front 2 feet are off the ground by about 1/4 inch. So it's only sitting on the back 2 feet and the front 2 arms. Whereas the Zino, evenly displaced. Okay? Scared to death to land that in any grass. The range, it's got a 5-kilometer range. Not even close. Maybe in the Alps or the mountains of Italy or Iceland, but no, not Iceland, it's too cold. But no, not even close. I'd say it's got a respectable 600 meters, 500 or 600 meters, which is respectable, but it does not have a 5-kilometer range under normal use. Under perfect ideal conditions, yes. And the Fimi does handle the wind a little better than the Zino. The Fimi does not have the wandering flight characteristics because it has the sensors on the bottom. It doesn't have the erratic behavior that the Zino has. And this one I'm beginning to feel a lot more for. The release doors, the release notches or switches or buttons, whatever, for the battery are right where you want to grab if I want to pick it up. I am scared that I'm going to, and that battery is going to come off. So I don't like the way that is. Okay, it's just there. I don't know how else, whether they'd have a button here or, I don't know. It just gets in the way. Maybe there's no other way of doing it, but it gets in the way. You cannot control the Fimi with just your phone or a tablet. It does not have a Wi-Fi board. It does not emit a Wi-Fi signal. It is a controller-based flyer, period. On the controller, the video button and the picture button are on the back. Some will say, oh, that's a great location. Well, not really. Okay? In a tense situation, you push them. Okay? I'd rather have them up here or here. Okay? There. Okay? Another button up here somewhere. Not a great fan of that location. Okay. No Wi-Fi. Propellers get in the way when doing calibrations. They do. You've got to turn it in a certain way, not touching the arms, and do it in a certain way, and the propellers just get in the way. They do get in the way. I'm thinking that I might, when I'm calibrating, I might have to have the propellers in like that, and that might be better. Make sure they're out of the way. They do get in the way quite a bit. I've spoken about, I've got here, updates can't be reverted. There is a workaround to that, but you still can't do it yourself. Controller is heavy and awkward to set up with device. Okay, this, it's a heavy. It's got a spring, and it'll hold a 7-inch tablet. Okay, and that's pretty powerful. But in order to put your phone in, you need two hands. You've got to have it open first. Okay, then you've got to take your phone. This is a small phone, but you've got to take that, make sure it fits in there properly. Okay, and then be careful and push this back down. Okay, and then maybe get it in properly and muck around and then fiddle with the rubber thingy and put that in. And getting it out is you've got to have it open a bit and then lift it up a bit, and you don't want to damage these and pull it out. So it gets a little cumbersome. It's some people, I'm picking pieces, I'm picking things apart. That's the whole purpose for this. Maybe there'll be an improvement in Fimi version 2 or 4, whatever the next one is going to be. The flight modes of the Fimi. There's 3 of them. There's GPS, ATTI, and VPU. You have no control over which flight mode you're in. So if you're outside and you can't get GPS signal, it'll go into VPU mode. And then suddenly it could get GPS and it'll go in GPS mode, which will alter the whole characteristics of the flight. And then there's ATTI mode, and there's no way of going from one to the other or locking in a mode if it's available. So from what I'm seeing is the preferred and only flight, true tested flight mode for the Fimi is GPS. Anything less than GPS, you're flying by the seat of your pants. Okay. There's no troubleshooting guide. There's no index in the manual. There's the jello effect in cooler weather is there. And that's where I'm at with that. I think that's about it there. My big disappointment with the Fimi is obviously the camera. That's one of the big drawbacks. The next one would be the height clearance underneath. I don't want to land this on anything but a sidewalk or a piece of plywood or anything like that. I don't trust it as far as that goes. As far as hovering is concerned, yes, it will hover. It has precise flying ability. It has a good 500 or 600 meter range. Its negatives are that you can't just plug it in and fly it. You have to plug it in. It checks the systems. It's doing a fail-safe thing. It's making sure it's safe. You don't want to damage anything. I understand that. And as one person has said to me today, well, yeah, you don't want to fly this thing in sub-zero weather because it's going to damage it. Okay, well, the Autel Evo, the Hubsan Zino, the H501, the Bugs 2, hey, let's go back to the JGR C31. We'll fly in any weather and not damage it. So enough as to say that this machine won't operate because it's protecting itself. But where's the documentation for that? If you're going to infer that this will fly, but it won't, because if you do, you're going to damage it, there should be a big red warning flag saying, do not fly under any circumstances or attempt to plug this in or turn on if these things are present. If it's even close to 0 degrees, do not take it outside. Do not plug it in. You are going to damage everything. Okay? Do not fly it if it's close to 0 degrees, even if it will fly, because the plastic or metal dampeners will harden up, or the rubber will harden up, and you will get a jello effect and shaky effect on the video. No mention of that. So don't tell me or infer that a craft is going to fly when in fact there's no warning to say that it shouldn't fly, or what's going to happen if you do. Okay? I'd never take a 17 below 0 battery and put it into a 17 degree below 0 craft and expect it to fly. Now, Captain Drone on YouTube has done that with all kinds of drones and tested them with temperature, thermal triggers, and yeah, they won't fly. 17 below 0, no, ain't gonna turn on. Put a warm battery in, yeah, it's gonna turn on. Well, I put a warm battery in this, it was 3 degrees below 0, and then probably went up to 0, put the warm battery out of the house into this, and would not fly. Would not get out of a repeated sequence of error messages and everything like that. So it has some issues. Okay, I did the exact same thing with the Hubsan. It flew. So there you go. So that's my update. That's my conclusion. It was long, tedious. We went through the whole list. I think I got everything. Which one do I like better? If the Hubsan fixes the erratic flight behavior, and this is $120 US more than this, is the Fimi worth the extra $120 over the Hubsan? No, it's not. I got in this and this same price. It's a real toss-up. A real toss-up. Okay? The controller's not as good as this for preciseness, but $120? You could buy an Anafi. You could buy a Spark, Mavic Air, some other big names you could buy. This just needs taller feet that won't interfere with the flying characteristics. It's got to be raised up another ½ inch or so. But once you start getting that way, it's going to interfere with the compass. So it's got to be raised up about, I'd say even a ½ inch. That would be great. And they've got to come up with a cover for this. I'm sure their firmware updates are going to address the camera issues and the repeated GPS modes, and they're going to be able to lock into different flight modes and all that kind of stuff. It has a superior updating sequence. It's a real toss-up. I just do notice that for video quality right now, Hubsan's way better than the Fimi. It's got a lot of shake, a lot of jello, and a lot of soft focus. This is getting better and better. The flight on this is not there, and it may never get there because it doesn't have any sensors. But if they can control that flight thing a little bit better, I'd buy this over this. Okay, if everything on this worked properly and I didn't have to worry about anything, it'd be a super upgrade to that. But they've got to fix the camera, soft focus. They got to fix some flight issues, some range issues. And I've heard some experiences with funny flighting, but overall, they're two excellent drones. But 120 US dollars difference, I don't see it. I'd rather spend a little bit more and get something a little bit better. But great competition. Great competition. And that wraps it up. That's what I got to say. I'm not going to compare them to a Maverick or any DJI because DJI is in another category all to themselves and up there with the Evo and other stuff. So that's what it is. Thanks for sticking to the end. And my next video is going to be on the latest firmware update to this to see if it changes it. And if I can come back and say, oops, I was wrong. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.